Hello and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends normally spin a wheel once a week and it normally chooses the horror movie for them. But today, in honor of Scream 5, Joe Testa, longtime guest of the show, and I are going to be discussing Scream 2, 3, and 4. We've already covered Scream 1, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago. It was Eric, Joe, and I. So if you haven't listened to that one and you want to catch up on our thoughts on Scream 1, you can find that on Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. And we also released our episode on Scream 2 and 3 this week, so you can also listen to those if you want to catch up on our thoughts on those movies. And now, jumping into Scream 4, which was directed again by Wes Craven. We've got Kevin Williamson returning as the writer, and that came out in 2011. So we got a nice little 11-year gap between 3 and 4. And we're back in Woodsboro for the first time since Scream 1.
So did you see this one in theaters?
I did. I actually saw this in London. I was studying abroad, and that's when I watched like 1, 2, and 3 back to back, and then went and saw 4 in theaters, and I liked it, dude. I left the theater being like, that was great. That was a really good movie. What about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it and still like it. You know, I think it's pretty solid. And, you know, it's funny. I know this movie didn't do great business, and it seemed to come out at a strange time. Like, I don't feel like people were really asking for this. You know, a new Scream movie now makes sense, I feel like, because we're all so nostalgic about things from like the 80s, the 90s, even the early 2000s now.
Yeah.
But in 2011, when this came out, I feel like we were still in the kind of remakes of horror movies. You know, the year before this, it was like the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street, and before that, Friday the 13th and Halloween. And to do a straight sequel, it seemed like a strange time for it, where now it makes so much sense to me. But I enjoyed it quite a bit for reasons I'm sure we'll get into.
Well, it's funny too, because I'm more surprised that Wes Craven came back, to be honest with you. I'm like, I cannot believe that he would do 4 of these movies. And I love that. It's like Spielberg with Indiana Jones. I mean, like, this is his baby. I really like that it was coming back, but it did surprise me. I think that was part of the reason I was intrigued. I feel like if another director was doing the 4th one, I would have been like, okay, they've moved on. But that definitely brought me in there. The cast coming back brought me in there. But you're right. It is surprising that they would do a 4th one after taking 11 years off.
The strange thing with the Scream movies is, like I mentioned before, you have to have a new killer. It's not like Halloween or Friday the 13th where you just resurrect the killer. You have to come up with a new killer with new motivations, and you know the audience has to, you know, suspend their disbelief regarding, another serial killer is targeting this poor girl.
Yeah, so I don't know if maybe I got it or I'm missing it, but basically Emma Roberts is her like second cousin, so I guess like Sydney's dad's sister's daughter, right?
No, I think it's Sydney's mother's sister's daughter.
Oh, that's okay.
Which is her first cousin. I'm pretty sure it's her first cousin, right?
So the woman who's Donnie Darko's mom, that is Sydney Prescott's aunt. That's Maureen Prescott's sister.
If I'm remembering correctly, yes.
Okay. So now, all right. So the whole thing, because she even says, she's like, nobody thinks about how this affected me, like sort of thing.
Right.
So,
yeah. Which seemed like a line just to almost, she's like a red herring. I feel like, are we supposed to be suspecting that this middle-aged woman is putting on the ghost face costume?
Yeah. But I guess the theme to me of this movie is about narcissism in the internet age, and I don't know, not having public shame, I guess, anymore. And Emma Roberts is a product of that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll just get into my favorite thing about this movie.
Yeah.
And it's the reveal that Emma Roberts is the killer, because I feel like all of us going into this movie were sure that they were setting Emma Roberts up to be the new lead of the series. You know, if this did continue, she would be the new Sydney. And then when it's revealed that she is one of the killers, but definitely the leader, I think that is an absolutely brilliant twist. I mean, I honestly think that this is the best reveal, the best, you know, killer reveal since Billy and Stu in that first movie.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. And it also, like, her motive, even though it's a little bit of a stretch, it's
Mhm.
still, with the exception of Mrs. Loomis, it's the one that makes the most sense to me. I mean, she's a
It's
yeah,
always going to be a stretch. If
yeah,
people became serial killers for the reasons they do in these movies, we would all be serial killers.
it's true. It really is true. But yeah, I mean, but for just, I guess, like in the Scream world, this one I'm kind of
Hmm.
like, all right, like she's resentful of how everybody was always talking about her sister. What do they call her? Bad. What the hell is her name? They call her like Bad Luck something, or
They call her like an angel of death
that's it,
or something.
Angel of Death.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like the Laurie Strode thing where everybody's like, your boogeyman's your brother, or whatever. So it's like,
Mhm.
I could see how that could wear on somebody. Not enough to kill somebody, but it would suck.
No, and it feels again. I think I've used this word a few times, but I think it feels kind of timely. I mean,
Mm,
in this age of social media and influencers, I mean, the fact that she wants to she has that great line where she's like, "I don't need friends, I need fans,"
right.
and I think, I mean, that works even better today, I think, than it worked in 2011.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And that's the thing. I wonder if this movie came out in like 2016. I feel like it would have incorporated social media more and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, it feels like this came out at a weird time where like social media hadn't like completely ruined society just yet. Like it still was like teetering on like, oh, people are talking and there's not phones everywhere. And then, but if this came out 5 years later, definitely would have been different. It still feels like a little innocent, I guess, in comparison
Hmm.
to
Yeah,
nowadays.
there's another line she has where she says, to be famous, you need fucked up shit to happen to you. She says something like that. And I remember at the time that didn't really land with me, but now it seems like so of the moment. Like, I just feel like, that's constantly something you see where, people use bad things that have happened to them to, not always with the best of intentions. Not only her motives and everything, I like all that, but I just like her performance. I think it's kind of easy to go way over the top with these performances, but when she's like stabbing herself and then she kills her partner, we should say that there's another killer in this movie.
Mm.
Her partner, he's a Culkin.
I know.
His name escapes me,
Yeah.
but when she takes him out and then she starts mutilating herself, so she has a story for the police.
Mm.
I think all that shit is great.
Oh my God, her makeup looks great with her eye all bleeding or bloody and the
Hmm.
glass scratches on her face. Like, yeah, like she messed herself up pretty good. It is interesting though, because yeah, you're like what you said, like she's doing it for the wrong reasons, becoming famous, and it's like I'm a little interested in what you think about Sydney, almost kind of going the Gale Weathers Cotton kind of route with her life. Like she's writing her story, which they've already made
Hmm.
movies about your life. Everybody knows your story, sort of thing. So now she's like, well, I'm going to tell you my story. Why do you think she's doing that? She's drawing attention to herself.
To me, it worked. I feel like she was just kind of showing her side of things and kind of exercising her demons, because as far as we know, the only other stories that have been told are Gail's stories, and who knows what her books were like, and the stab movies, which were slasher movies. So I could see her wanting to put her story out there.
You're right. Now that you're saying that out loud, it's like Gail's story is like there's such an objective, I guess, in what she's trying to write, and she's trying to create such a story for the audience.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was very embellished and made her look really good.
Right, exactly. So you're right. Yeah, I didn't really think of it like that. I'm hoping that Sydney's book would be like the truth, like what we're
Mhm.
seeing, sort of thing. But yeah, you know what? I didn't think of it like that.
What did you think of the opening when we get these fake outs that
Mm.
were actually in, these stab sequels, and Scream 4 doesn't actually start until, I don't know, like the third or fourth group that we meet?
Dude, I like it. I really do. Like, I feel like I shouldn't like it, but I do. Like, it is really original, and I like what they're talking about for the most part. It is kind of, I don't know, like what you're talking about earlier, where it did feel like they were talking at us, sort of thing, a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah.
But honestly, like, it did surprise me, and even when the last one actually happens, I thought they were going to yell cut, or I thought there was going to be something that kind of, like,
Mhm.
brought us out of that again. So I was like, dude, they tricked me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember when the fake out, but what about you?
I like it more now. In the theater, I wasn't so sure because, I was going in, I was really looking forward to it, and I felt like, look, they've had a decade to figure out what they want to do here. They have to, they have to try and outdo that Drew Barrymore scene, and
Mm,
that probably wasn't a realistic expectation. So when they're doing these fake outs, I was getting nervous, I'll say.
yeah.
But all in all, I think it's, yeah, like you said, it's different. It's fun. Some of the conversations are fun that they're having. And it is obvious that they've, especially compared to the third movie, they've really ratcheted up the blood and the gore in this one.
Oh, yeah. This one, by far, I thought the most gory. And also, maybe I'm like overthinking it, but the way that Ghostface speaks, I mean, I know it's not Ghostface, but just like
Mhm.
it felt like, I don't know, like more gross for some reason, that his opening line. I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, no, he's like more vulgar.
Yeah, exactly. And I was just
Mhm.
like, ooh, he's welcome to 2011. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think they had to go that route. I mean, think about the horror movies we've had between Scream 3 and Scream 4. I
Mm,
mean, you had the whole wave of Saw movies and Hostel and The Devil's Rejects. I
yeah.
mean, I think it was the right instinct.
I think you're 100% right. I don't know if I've ever asked you, what is your opinion on like Saw and Hostel and that kind of violent movies in the 2000s?
I was kind of checked out of them.
Yeah.
And in a general sense, I mean, they're I love The Devil's Rejects,
Mm.
and I was a pretty big fan of Rob Zombie's first two movies. I think they captured that '70s aesthetic better than anyone else did, and I think that was the trend. Like so many of these movies were trying to recapture that '70s grit, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Last House on the Left remake, and I think Rob Zombie probably did it better than anyone with his first two movies.
Mm.
But yeah, they for the most part they didn't really interest me. Trying to think. I'm sure there were exceptions, but that was a time that I wasn't too interested in a lot of what was going on in horror movies. But yeah, there's that seems like a whole nother podcast.
No, but I was always curious because you and I love horror movies so much, and Eric
Mhm.
too. And it's funny, Eric and myself and you, I just wasn't interested in those, and that seemed
Yeah.
to be what was dominating in between Scream 3 and 4. And I just wasn't
hmm
interested. It's the same thing. Like, I kind of reverted back to older films and films from the 70s and 80s and 90s because I just didn't like what was coming out at the time.
hmm Yeah, I always call them like post 9/11 horror movies. I feel like we were just kind of going through something as a culture, and we were just kind of purging ourselves of things we were seeing on the news. We wanted to kind of see it in a safe space or something. I don't know.
Mm,
I've thought about these things in like a cultural sense.
yeah.
But I think there were some really interesting movies around that time. I'm thinking about like The Mist
Oh,
and
yeah.
30 Days of Night. I thought it was a good one.
Yeah. Well, there's
But
always gonna be good things no matter what. I
sure.
mean, even if it is like
Yeah.
a weird period, but you're right. I never really thought about
hmm
like us as a culture and society with the internet and what was going on in Afghanistan and Iraq at the time. We were seeing such violence in reality for the first time, where now it's like we
hmm
got to see something even more intense and know it's not real.
Exactly. Like when footage of like prisoners was on the news, it was at the same time like the Hostel movies were really big. And I don't think that was a coincidence.
Yeah. Damn, dude.
So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's funny though. I saw most of them.
Really?
I did. Yeah, I think I checked out of the Saw movies after part 5.
Okay, you made it longer than me. I only made it
Yeah,
to 3, and I was like, I
yeah,
can't.
yeah. It's not even that I necessarily was enjoying them. I just wanted to, as a horror fan, wanted to see what was being made. And
Mm,
I think I saw Hostel 1 and 2. Like some of the filmmakers from that time, like Eli Roth and Rob Zombie. I don't love their movies usually, but I'm always interested in what they're doing, and I
right.
even if I don't usually love their movies, I want to see their movies.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got to respect them. They're they're influenced by people that we all love. So it's cool to see what's coming out, even if you don't love exactly what they're doing. But yeah, I guess so. Back to this a little bit. Their relationships, they're also drastically different. All of the characters that I guess it's only 3 now, but Dewey and Gail are married and they're not doing well, which makes sense.
And I'm pretty sure that they were going through a divorce when this movie was being shot. So that that adds to the meta Scream thing.
I wonder how they're going to handle that in Scream 5, but yeah, we'll see.
It's probably a little less awkward, actually. It's been like a decade.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, exactly. Not actually happening on set. But I was thinking more about Gail as a character, where it's like she did have big city dreams and, wanted to be the next Barbara Walters or whatever it was. And yeah, Dewey didn't. He wanted the small town charm and to be the sheriff. So to have those conflicting things, one of them was naturally just going to be unhappy, and we do get to see. And I thought that was kind of a cool way for their characters to unfold, I guess.
Yeah, and Dewey must have had a really good surgeon because his injuries from Scream 1 seem to have miraculously healed. I don't think he even drops a line about that. All the times I've seen this movie, I don't think I ever caught a line about why he doesn't have a limp or, he even had an arm injury in Scream 2. I don't know. There's no mention of it, but yeah, he's back on the force. And I really like Gale in this movie. I feel like in part 3, it didn't seem like the Gale we got in Scream 1 and 2. Like, there's lovable aspects of her, but she is tough and she is like an ice queen, and I think she gets back to that a little more. And in this one, I feel like they gave her balls back.
Yeah, she's feisty, dude. And, even though she may not be happy with Dewey, like she does see this new, I can't remember her name, but the blonde police officer as a threat.
Deputy Judy,
yeah. So she sees her as a threat. I mean, she's cute and she does what Dewey wants. Dewey does want a small town person. That's kind of what she wants too. And I don't know. So you do see her get feisty, which good for Courtney Cox.
What about the new cast? What are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, I actually really liked Hayden Panettiere. I thought her character was like awesome. Like it was spunky, but like also newer shit. And yeah, I loved her. I'm trying to think who else is it.
Yeah, she's definitely the highlight for sure. I feel like a lot of the rest of the cast is kind of lined up for the slaughter.
Yeah, and they're not even as good, like as memorable as the other cast from the other films. I feel like I don't know.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, they're okay, and the whole filming thing's 24/7. I mean, I guess that is kind of happening now a little bit.
Yeah, they were definitely reaching for something that I don't know, feels kind of clunky now. Yeah, I don't. A lot of the technology in like Scream 3 and Scream 4, like the voice box in Scream 3 and the head cam that the kid wears in Scream 4, I feel like is them trying a little too hard to be current.
Yeah, like trying to get ahead of it.
Yeah, and it just kind of dates it, or in the case of the voice changer in part 3, it just seems like magic. It does seems like it doesn't belong.
I know, really. Jesus, that's probably my biggest gripe of the whole series. But overall, I do like how they go back to Woodsboro. I like how we get to see that. I like how the Stab series has evolved. I like how the characters have evolved. Honestly, yeah, this is kind of, for a sequel, especially coming out so much later and after the third one, was a little bit of a lull. It's a nice way to regenerate the series, and I'm really upset that Wes Craven isn't going to be here for the next one,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this was a pretty solid movie to go out on.
Yeah.
I don't know what most people's expectations were for it. I know it didn't make the money that they were hoping for, but yeah, I thought this was a pretty solid, fun entry.
Yeah, you don't really see anything where it's like they have such a gap and then it's better than the ones that came out before. You really don't see that too often.
Yeah. I will say it does go slightly into overkill territory in the last 5 minutes at the hospital. From what it actually reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen the remake of Black Christmas, the 2006 remake of Black Christmas.
No, I never did.
That has a final confrontation at the hospital that involves a defibrillator, and it's a lot like this movie. From what I understand, Kevin Williamson got called away to work on the Vampire Diaries, I think it was, and a lot of the rewrites, and there were a lot of rewrites on this movie from what I understand too, were left to Scream 3's screenwriter, Aaron Kruger.
Oh.
And from what I understand, he came up with this ending. But, by then, it's still a recommend from me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do think Emma Roberts, when she's just like, well, actually, Sydney's still alive. She's like, fuck. Like, you can see it in her face. She's like, oh no.
And the line, who do you think you are, Michael fucking Myers?
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. So, hey, oh yeah, how does it end though? It's just like clear. It's like clear, and then yeah, pretty ridiculous.
I could take that or leave it.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have any last minute thoughts on Scream 4?
No, it was a good one. Wes did a solid job, and we'll miss him.
I know. Yeah. Well, but since we're here, and we'll wrap up in a second. Have you seen? I want to talk a little bit about the fifth one, just what your thoughts are. But then, have you seen the TV series? That was the MTV show.
I think I watched the first episode just to give it a shot, and I don't remember what my feelings were one way or the other, but I know I didn't continue.
Yeah, dude, that mask. I'm just like, what the fuck? What is this? Like, no. I don't like the mask, and I also don't like that. The whole point of Scream, I feel like, is these characters. Like, it's not as effective without Sydney and Gale and Dewey.
Absolutely.
All right, Scream 5. So it's coming out tomorrow. So I'm gonna go see it in theaters. But I want to know. I've only seen the trailer twice, actually, and I haven't looked up anything. But what do you think?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think there's only been one trailer. At least I've only seen one. And I've been trying to stay as spoiler free as possible. I actually appreciate that. I feel like we're not being bombarded with like new trailers, and a lot of movies like that, watch the first 15 minutes on YouTube now. And like, right. I feel like they're really keeping this kind of close to the chest, which I appreciate. So, but my feelings on the trailer are pretty positive. It looks really serious and kind of gritty, and like just like a really suspenseful thriller. I feel my fear for something like this is that it would be a little too cute, a little bit wink wink, and I don't want that. I feel like the vibe that this one trailer has given me, I really dig. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I agree, man. This one does not look like it's messing around. It definitely looks a lot grittier. It's funny because my dad has all of the smart locks and the smart lights that go on and off. The TVs go on and off at a certain time. Like, so I'm looking at this. I'm like, hey, Dad, maybe you should watch this trailer, because one person hacks your shit and then they can unlock all your doors and all that stuff. And so I'm interested to see the technology, I guess, that they incorporate into this one.
Yeah, and that's like hopefully a good example of them using technology really well, as opposed to the voice changer in part 3 or the head cam in part 4.
Right. And I want to know, like, if they're going to, probably going to social media a little bit, but it looks like what they're doing is they're going after people that were related to the killers or the victims.
Right. That's like the one piece of information the trailer gives us about the story, is that the victims were related to the original killers. They're related to Billy and Stu, I believe.
Maybe. I think that is it. Yeah. Huh.
Which, yeah.
Interesting.
I'm really intrigued. The fact that they got Nev and Courtney and David to come back, hopefully, says something about the project.
Yeah.
I think these directors did Ready or Not, which was a pretty fun little horror movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I never saw that, but I see it advertised everywhere, and the reviews are really good, so that's a good sign. But you're right, though. The fact that all 3 of those actors are coming back, even though I don't think Kevin Williamson... Wait, is Kevin Williamson coming back for this one?
I think he's a producer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think he wrote it.
Well, it's a good sign, though, that the cast is like, listen, like, this is actually really good. Like, that's why we're kind of doing it. The one gripe, though, and I don't know what the hell they're doing, why is this just called Scream again?
Oh, God, yeah.
What are they doing?
Yeah, that's just the trend, right? Halloween 2018 is just Halloween, which makes it the third Halloween movie.
Yeah.
The third movie just called Halloween. So it's just, it makes things confusing when you're talking.
Dude, Candyman?
Yeah, it's just now you have to say, Candyman 1992 or but I think, what do you think of that trend? I'm assuming it's just so younger audiences don't feel like they have to do homework. Is that what that's about?
That's like 100%, because First of all, if you go to see this movie, like, stop making movies for people to be like, you don't have to see the other ones to still enjoy this one. Like, no, make the movie that you want to make, because this is part 5. This is part 5. So you're tricking people, basically. Yeah, I think you're right, though, about the laziness, probably.
Mm-hmm. I'm really looking forward to it. It's kind of crazy, you know, like, I'm always curious how, I'm going to sound so old right now, like how, you know, the younger generations, you know, is there much demand for a Scream movie? Like, we're just getting bombarded with all this nostalgia lately. You know, we just within the last few weeks, we had a new Ghostbusters movie, Spider-Man, The Matrix. It's like, what year are we living in again?
Dude, it's getting out of control.
And also, at the time we're recording this, we're still waiting to see how the theatrical experience survives the pandemic. And so we'll see. I'm just curious what kind of business this movie is going to do, or what kind of, you know, how much anticipation there is for this movie outside of the target audience, the people who love the series.
I know, man. I'm kind of curious to see how it does too, but I felt the same way about Scream 4. I was like, I don't know, like, who's the hell is going to see this aside from like big horror fans. But
I think with Scream 4, that's really all there was, you know. So I'm curious, like, has the Scream brand really grown and, you know, blown up in the 10 years since Scream 4? I'm just curious.
I this is the only thing I could think of, is they're using Halloween success as like a, hey, like, there's a look it, but then also I'm assuming they looked at the numbers from the TV show and they're like, hey, a lot of young people on MTV are watching this. So clearly Halloween's a success. People want to see horror. The young people are watching this TV show, because I think it was 2 or maybe even 3 seasons. So who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Halloween that's probably came up in a lot of meetries.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, Jesus, now Candyman, and I think they're doing Hellraiser now. So it's getting crazy. Like, let's try something new. I don't know. But we'll see. Well, Joe, do you have any last minute thoughts on anything? Any of the Scream movies?
Just that this has been a lot of fun to take this walk down memory lane, and hopefully we have another good one to talk about.
I know, man. Yeah, this seriously, I love doing this, and hopefully we can keep doing it with other movies. Where if a new one's coming out, we can take some time to cover the ones leading up to it. But dude, seriously, couldn't think of a better guest to talk with about this either. Like, you saw them in theaters, Joe. You were there.
Indeed. And if I'm going to make a confession, I saw parts 2 and 3 5 times in theaters.
Even 3?
Even 3, and by the fifth time it was absolute torture. But it became tradition with me and my friends that we saw these several times. So Scream 4 I only saw once.
Was there ever a time in the theater that was like the Stab 2 or the Stab premiere, like in Scream 2?
Not quite. I mean, that would have been amazing. But I will say, opening night for Scream 2 was an event.
Yeah, dude, I feel like that would have probably been the biggest of all of them.
Yeah. No cosplay, though. I didn't wear my Ghostface costume.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody should have a Ghostface costume if you were born in a certain time period. I don't know. It just kind of feels like every 90s kid should have one, I feel like. But
yeah, it's a rite of passage. This series is kind of a rite of passage if you're a certain age.
If you're a horror fan in general, I feel like even if I had kids someday, I'd be like, watch these movies, and then this is like really where the horror movies changed. And it's a very important franchise. And if you like horror movies and you haven't seen these, I don't know how the hell you made it this far in the podcast, but go watch them, because they're really cool. And I don't know, I'm always excited when a new one comes out.
Absolutely.
All right. Again, Joe, thank you so much. Everybody, we have, what's today? Thursday. So tomorrow we have Fresh Film Fridays coming out with the episode Pig. And then on Monday, we will have Wheel of Horror with Dawn of the Dead, the 2004 remake. Thanks again, everybody, for listening in, and we'll see you tomorrow with Fresh Film Fridays Pig.